Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what class you are. Today's video lecture is all about shape and the importance of it. Shape really is the fundamental skill beyond line to where you can start to develop the base or kind of the skeleton of whatever it is that you're trying to do. Today I prepared a few quick demonstrations and then a complete video demonstration on the assignment that you're expected to do. And shape really feeds the imagination, and it lets you kind of start to build things even when you don't know what you want to do. And it's especially important for things that don't exist. Like how do you draw a dragon, for example? Like there are no dragons that you can pull from in real life to look at. So you kind of have to use your imagination, and you use shapes to fill in the empty pieces of the puzzle of the dragon, for instance. And everything that's living kind of has its own rules. For instance, most living creatures will have four limbs. They'll have two arms and two legs, and they'll have a head, they'll have a body, they'll have a tail. There's always exceptions. For instance, one of your or a part of your assignment is to draw some mammals, but not all mammals are like that. Though the skeleton may be more related than you think, but when you think of a dolphin or a whale, that's a mammal that really doesn't look like other mammals. In some ways, it resembles a fish because it has the fins and things like that. So there are always exceptions, but it is supremely important to remember your shapes and to always use them, and especially now to become accustomed to using them, because as you get more and more skilled, the shapes are really going to free you up to do more and more, and they give you more freedom the more skill that you have to manipulate and twist and change things and put things in position depending on the type of composition that you're working on. And I'll show you a little bit of that too as far as positioning humans, but not too much. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a dragon. I'm going to try to draw some dragons for you guys, and I can't promise that it's going to be any good, but I'm going to try, and then we'll try to draw some quick little people. Now, I do need you to understand, you do not have to draw the dragon. That's not part of the assignment. I'm just going to show you that to show you how useful shape can be, and then the people as well, kind of as far as positioning them. But it's going to be very quick today, so it's not going to be too complicated. I just want to show you kind of the basics and how easy it can be. I do want to tell you how to prepare your paper. So what you're going to do is you're going to get a sheet of paper, copy paper preferably, and you're going to fold it hot dog style. And I don't know how this is showing up in the video because it might be reversed, but that says birds. So all of the birds, I want them right here. Try to make them fit as comfortably as possible. If they have to overlap, and so be it. Then right behind that, you have the people, and you have to draw 4 people, and you should fit them all right here. And inside you have the insects. So then you have the insects, and then you have the mammals, which people are also mammals. I know that, okay? And this way it kind of lets you complete the assignment and save some paper, but you don't have to do it this way. I understand this way it's usually easier in class because I can just take a quick look at it and just flip it, open it and flip it and make sure that everything is done. But if you want to use 2 sheets of paper, that's fine. This way you would just have to take 2 pictures, one of one side and then one of the other side. So that's how you should prepare your worksheet. And that's all you need to do to prepare, so it's not nearly as complicated as the line assignment that we just did. All right, so let's get to those dragons that I said I was going to draw. Let's see if it ends up being any good. Is your dragon going to have its mouth closed or its mouth opened? Is it going to be like an Asian style dragon or more of a medieval Europe style of dragon? But first, let's talk about that mouth situation. Now, I'm going to start with a circle. Now, this is a very common way to start any drawing, not just the dragon. And I'm going to show you 2 examples here. One with the mouth closed and one with the mouth open. Now, I'm going to do another. And now, this could be anything. It doesn't have to be a dragon at this stage. So that is the importance of shape. Now, most creatures have a round head. So this is aligned kind of that's guiding me to tell me that it's round. And I'm going to extend this here. You have a jaw right down here, and then that could come in like that. And then this is going to be where the eye is going to be positioned, right around here. And you could already kind of see it start to come together, especially if you just use a little bit of imagination. Now you start with your shapes, but then later you want to, you want to erase the lines that create those shapes. And here you could take it a step further. Well, not a step further, but you have decisions to make. And like I said, the shapes let you do that. So I don't know if maybe I want to put a mustache on this dragon, and that would make it a bit more Asian. And you know what? I am going to put a mustache on the dragon because that's just what I feel like doing. And you can see how quick that was. And I'm not currently using a reference. And I took this little circle piece from the iguanas that we see everywhere. Give me one second, I gotta get it. Sorry, I had to get an eraser because the pencil I'm using doesn't have an eraser in the back. And the shape is just your guide. So as you start to feel a little bit more satisfied with your drawing, then you could start to erase the shapes. And you know, I'm gonna add some horns just for fun. Now these horns, I'm gonna keep them a bit simple here. You know what the heck, let's try to make them curve. Make them a bit longer. And that just takes a little bit of practice, understanding how something might curve like that. But I didn't want to intimidate you guys too much. But you don't have to do this drawing. So like this would curve back, and then this would curve like this. And then it would curve again. And just put some ridges in there. And we're gonna add some spikes, kind of going back like this. And you could kind of see how it's come together. Now, once you're happy with what you've done, you can go and erase the lines that helped you create it, keeping some of those as kind of contour lines to show where you have certain curves and whatnot. And all of that started with just these two shapes. Now, if you wanted to make that jaw open, then that curve would have to change a bit. And now we have kind of this same thing going on. Let's try to make this one a bit more like European style. So a more European style, the nostrils or the nose would be kind of just like indentations, kind of like that. Right. Well, we still have the jaw here, which is represented with this circle. The head is still here. And I believe it will still have a very thick kind of brow. Now the open mouth would expose the teeth. And for the teeth, you could also, well, the teeth within themselves are just shapes as well. Something you should understand about teeth and your own. And reptiles, depending on the reptile, they have different types of teeth, but it wouldn't hurt to look at a kind of at a photo reference here and look at these kind of triangular teeth. But for a made-up creature like a dragon, I mean, you kind of have free reign, especially if it's your made-up dragon. Now what I am going to have to do here is I'm going to have to kind of make the jaw a little bit bigger. This jaw got a little bit long on me. I was looking more like a crocodile type of dragon. So the point is that the shapes facilitate this type of drawing. So you can change it up. You can do lots of different things just by shape. And I do this to kind of draw you in because I also know that we're not going to be drawing too many dragons, but you guys kind of like to see this style or this type of drawing. Could also add some horns. But let's talk about also the bodies. Like, how would we go about doing the bodies of these dragons? Now, the Asian style dragon, it's a bit longer, snake-like, right? And this is kind of the shape that you would use for that. And it still has, you know, 4 limbs, and it's got a body, a tail, which is the same as the European style dragon, whose body is just more bulky. And then for the legs, you kind of have this type of shape, kind of almost like a T-Rex type of shape. Their arms, if they're not directly attached to their wings, tend to be pretty small, but you can change that too. Let's say we wanted to make those arms pretty significant, depending on whatever, you know, story you might be trying to tell. So the arms could be significant, and then the head could be something like this. And if you want to add wings, you know, there's usually certain rules for the wings as well, but that can be done with shape also. Usually when you storyboard, now what's a storyboard? It's like, let's say you're coming up with a design for a painting or an animation or whatever. You storyboard and you start with stick figures. So let's say we want to put 2 people together and they're talking. But this is going to kind of lay out who's taller, who's shorter, who's standing where. And the storyboard, that's part of storyboarding, is kind of figuring that out. And you could start with something as simple as, you know, stick figures. But then this has to change. But I want to make it a bit more exciting than just this. But I don't really know how. Maybe like putting some weapons in their hands. But they're too close to be fighting, or at least. So let me just continue with a basic demonstration. So let's say these 2 characters are standing together. You could start with something like this, but then you can use shapes to start to fill in their bodies. Usually for the joints, you have circles. Right? For the head, of course, you have a circle, but then that can start to change as well. And it helps to understand the muscles of the body, but we're not going to get into that right now. But then you have kind of, this is the waist here. And these can be circles. And this type of shape for the calves and the shin. This is the arm. You know what? Let's give this guy a sword, just for fun. And the shape kind of lets you do all of that. Now, you need to get to this level. Let's say, especially if you're creating a comic or something. The feet can be pretty challenging, and I'm still not perfect with feet either, or even good at them. But now we can start to add more detail. So for the eyes, we're just going to do some arabesque, which means we're just going to put in shadows and things like that, just to help you out with this kind of demonstration. Depending on what it is you're doing, you can start to define the muscles a little bit more. And usually characters are wearing clothes, but let's say this character might not be. So we're going to draw the pecs. We got our obliques here on the side, and we're going to give our character some muscles. So we're going to give him a bit of a six-pack. And this is just a character I kind of made up on the spot, but the only reason I can really do that is because I'm using the shapes to help me. You could go back in and clean it up. And for a lot of you that want to draw comics or whatever it is that you want to draw, you really need to kind of understand some of this stuff along with the lighting and the shading and whatnot. But I think that's enough of a quick demonstration. The more detailed demonstration on the actual lesson that you're going to do is it's attached on the assignments. I will tell you how to prepare your sheet of paper or your worksheet. And what you're going to do is you're going to fold your paper kind of hot dog style. Probably the easiest way to do it. And you're going to have one line here. So let's say the mammals here, which is like a rabbit, a wolf, a monkey, and an elephant. And then over here you could have the insects. Then you flip that inside. And then you could have the birds. And then you have the people. All right, I'm going to read the handout. Hopefully I'm going to do a better job than I did last week as far as letting you be able to see that. It will still be attached to the chat, or it will also be attached to the assignment. And then after that, I'll play the video demonstration, and then we can get to work. I hope you guys enjoy this quick little demonstration. Shapes, super important. Shapes, it's all about shapes. Really important, one of the basic things that you need to improve your drawing. So try to keep that in mind, and I think I'll be talking. I'll bid you a farewell before the end of this video, but don't leave because I probably still need to take attendance. So don't leave. All right, guys, I'm going to read this handout, but I'm going to zoom in so you can actually read along with me if that's your choice. And let's begin. Shape, the external form or appearance characteristic of someone or something, the outline of an area or figure. How are shapes used in art? Shapes can primarily be used in two areas of art. The first is as a guide when creating gestural drawings that will help you organize the composition and proportions. The second is using shapes for architectural design. We will discuss this in more detail when we go over space. When you think about drawing, any organic form shape can be typically employed to give you a guide as to how to begin. But you have to understand the anatomy of various types of animals on the planet, including mammals, reptiles, birds, insects, and other invertebrates. Once you understand the fauna, you will be able to create a convincing animal to be it an abstraction or something more realistic. So if we take a look at birds, it's generally understood, and like I said before, there's always exceptions, but it's generally understood that a bird will have two wings, a head and a beak, and a tail. Something like an ostrich would still have wings. They don't really work the same way as most birds. They're flightless birds. Their neck is a bit longer, but they do have a head and a beak. They have a tail, so they still kind of meet a lot of those criteria, except those legs on an ostrich are really long. Here I've positioned a man next to a polar bear so you can see how similar these or the anatomy truly is. And there you'll see they have a head, body, four limbs. So whether you're drawing a man or a polar bear, the shapes underneath would be similar. Not identical, but very similar. The images above are showing the idea that birds have two wings, a tail, a head, and a beak. So when drawing a bird, it is a safe assumption to draw two wings, a tail, a head, and a beak. Learning the basic shape for wings comes as a huge help in this matter. The image next to it shows that mammals typically have four extremities / limbs, a head, and a body. The shape changes according to the animal, but it will be a safe assumption when drawing a land mammal to include four limbs, a head, and a body. The similarities go further as will be showcased in the following images. It's important to note that there are always exceptions. For instance, whales are mammals and only have two extremities. A snake is a reptile with no limbs. This is a guide to most things, not all things. And again, excuse any misspellings. And here I do write these things myself. There is another page to this handout, and I'm going to go ahead and read that now. In this page, you could just see how we further compare the anatomy and how the bones line up in mammals. In this particular case, it's a man and a dog. Over here, it's kind of the same thing. And let me see if I can, you see even this bone, it's the same, right? They're shaped different, but it's the same. And let's go ahead and look at different types of mammals and see how similar they really are. Here you have human, a bear, a horse, and an imagined animal. So a mythical animal may be similar to that dragon that I try to draw. So the legs might look something like that. And over here in the whale, you can see even a whale still has its 5 fingers. They're just in the flipper. They're kind of hidden in there. The bat uses his fingers to help him fly. There you have a cat, also has 5 digits. And animals with hooves, their fingers have evolved. So those are not similar to other mammals. But they still are there. They're just completely rearranged. Above, you can see the similarities go farther than basic extremities. A body and a head. Most mammals have a very similar bone structure. Lastly, we will go over insects, which are naturally segmented into different shapes because of their exoskeleton. You have some variation in insects as you have arachnids and arthropods. So insects within themselves, because they have that exoskeleton, they're kind of already shapes and oftentimes pretty easy to draw. But even insects kind of have their own rules. They have 3 legs, they have a thorax, they have a head and an abdomen. So an arthropod or an arachnid. An arthropod would be like a millipede, I believe, or a mite or a centipede. And that's kind of a different category. But an arachnid still kind of has the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. The difference being that they have 8 legs instead of 6 legs. That's it for the handout, you guys. that's all I have for the video lecture. If I'm missing anything, I'll try to incorporate it into the class. I might pause the video just to say something that I might have missed for the video lecture. So you'll be hearing from me in a second in the class, all right? See ya.